So I'm live. How we doing, folks? Um, I expected there to be a few people already waiting. You see, I tried to come on a few minutes early today just to iron out a few little issuettes, and well, it's a good thing I did because I had to go and restart the whole thing up again for some reason. My computer locked on me. Well, nothing new there. Anyway, so guess what? 200 subscriptions are. I am euphoric over the matter. And Tom the Hungry Jerk is in the house. Some of the people are watching Dave's show, Bob. Oh, I was actually there myself, actually. I actually bounced out, so I can be prepared for this one. Also, another thing that I think a lot of you should watch and rewatch, obviously. That fat samurai is doing a versus tonight on two wonderful classic Halloween slasher films. He's doing Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, versus Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. I shan't weigh in yet. I don't want to steal his thunder, but that should be a lot of fun and rewatch. Big Guys 45 says second. Yes, but you'll always be number one with me. Fred Smithberg says hello. My brother says hello. Thank goodness for speech therapy, huh? Cindy D says hello, everyone. Fred Smithberg says, I just noticed over 200 subs. Yes, and imagine my embarrassment. Every now and then you lose a couple for reasons unknown. Nobody ever tells me why they unsubscribe. I'm always like, is it something I said? And wouldn't it have been just a kicker if a few people had dropped and I was at 199? Oh, I'd have been so humiliated. But I would have tried even harder to reach 1,000. Tom the Hungry Jerk says, hey guys, and hey specifically to Cindy. Zuperlix says, finally. Finally, what? I said 8 o'clock, and I'm here at 8 o'clock. Everyone's a critic. Big Guys 45s has news. And I think I'm just going to call you Big Guys from now on. I'm trying to abbreviate names. It just rolls off the tongue faster when I'm reading the comments section. And Big Guy says, good news. I was able to gain back and get some more subs, though not a whole lot. But but hey, it's much better than nothing or losing subs, most definitely. LOL. Tell me about it. I'm still at the point where I still get heartbroken when people unsubscribe. I take it personal. I mean, when you have 200, I mean, that's like company strength. It's like, you really you cherish each and every one of them. Big Guys 45 says those people are jerks. Or YouTube unfairly deletes honest and legitimate subs. What a pain. I had heard that before, but then what would their end game be? Why would YouTube delete posts? Although I must confess that's happened to me once or twice. I've gone into somebody's live chat or just watched one of their posts, and then I look in the corner and it says subscribe, and I go, I know I've subscribed to this person before. Oh, Superplex says, I'm just going to call you Zoop or Plex because you're a complex person. Finally able to log on. Well, I'm glad you made it. Perseverance pays off as always. Great to have you, and I'm just busting your chops. You love to bust mine. You wouldn't want an unfair advantage now, would you? Keith E in the house says, TPP, you know me. You down with OPP? Yeah, you know me. You down with that? That's as far as I'm going to go. But yes, Keith, we know you and you are always welcome. Oh, and thank you for reminding me. Keith and I have been chatting on Facebook. I'm on Facebook now. Same exact handle. Thrash Pondo Pawns. So for those of you who are on Facebook, please, please, please come join me. I'm almost to 20 Facebook friends. Big Guy says I'm almost at 800, but not quite. You'll get to 1,000 long before I do. I wish I had more than one subscribe to give you, my friend. You then go on to say, I'll be back in a bit. We'll be here waiting patiently. Emily Miller in the house says, hi, y'all. Hey, y'all. And hey to you. Hey, hi, howdy ho. Good to see you. John Doe says, hello, room. Congrats on the 200. I'm clapping for myself, but it's in the spirit of John Doe. John, thank you so much. Great to have you. And yes, I couldn't be happier and I couldn't be prouder of all of you because, well, all of you are part of that 200. Half a league, half a league, half a league on bravely and boldly rode the 200. A lot of people having fellowship. Zuplik says deletes, damn you, autocorrect. Yeah, that happens a lot, and sometimes I allow for it. Like that happened a little earlier today. I was auto-correcting myself. I was reading what I thought the person was saying, and no, they actually were writing that, and I was derailing the context of that which they were trying to say. Dave Claroni in the house says, "Hi, gang. Dave, hi to you too. Always great to have you." Keith E says, "You can go on and find my real name." I'm just gonna call you Keithy. Keithy. It sounds so much cuter. Oh yes, Keithy is on the down low. Don't tell anybody you talk to him. Rich S says we need a watch party. I would love to do that. Tell you what, Rich. My personal computer would be a disaster. I'm looking into getting a new laptop, which my granddaughter has one very very similar, and she can do watch parties and stuff like that on hers if she felt inclined. She won't loan hers to me. That's another story. But anyway, when I get the new technology, which hopefully I'll have before December, we can do stuff like that. Because I don't know how many of you caught it. Tug and I had an outstanding time doing the Night of the Living Dead watch party the other day, and the funny thing was, not only could I not see any of the chats, so he had to feed them to me, the good ones that I could work on. I could hear him perfectly. I could not hear the movie. Thankfully, I've seen the movie about 600 times, so I could actually do a rendition of it. If you wanted me to do a read along, I could from memory quote the entire movie. So I didn't need to hear it, but it just took away from the whole quality of the viewing experience. But a watch party is a capital idea. Let's see what else we got going on here. City D says it's great, Thrash. Thanks. We're happy for you. Thank you so much, Cindy D. Um, Again, you guys made it possible. Thank you very, very much. Oh, Daily Dan's the good stuff is in the house. And he says the watch party was cool. I am so glad you enjoyed. We had an absolutely outstanding time having it. Emily Miller says, I'm cheap. I buy mine from Trunks. I'm cheap. I buy mine from Trunks. Your laptops? Oh, I get it. Tops and trunks, maybe? Am I missing something? Or I'm just totally off the thread of the conversation. But anyway, Emily, I'm sure whatever you do is perfectly fine for what you're doing. Zublix says, cut to the chase. The zombies die. A lot of them do, but a lot more humans die than the zombies. Fred Smithberg says, ha, I love the word capital. Very British. Thank you. I'm a bit of a, I don't know. I watched a lot of PBS when I was a kid, so I like to speak in phraseology of our English cousins. Guest of honor in the house, Dave Sundstrom. Welcome to this celebration. I literally, not figuratively, I literally could not have done this without you. When Dave started giving me helpful hints on how to build my channel, I had 7, as in this many. I had this many followers, and 200 is substantially larger than 7. And he says, Thrash, you've got a bunch of people waiting on another stream. I do. You're kidding. That was the one that. Remember, I said one froze up. If anyone would be kind enough to go to that other stream and ask those people to come over to here, yeah, what happened was that stream froze up, and I'm afraid if I get out of this one to go to that one, that all will be lost. But thank you so much, Dave. You see, Dave, this is why I need you. Everybody's saying hello to Dave, of course. Emily Miller says, Superplex, way to spoil it. If you haven't seen The Living Dead at this point, I apologize. Dave Sundstrom says, I just gave them the new link. Dave, thank you so much for your help, as is always. Yeah, that one, when I posted it, or went to post it, it just did that thing where I got the circle, like it locked up, like it never transmitted. In fact, is there anything being transmitted there now? Strange. Fred Smithberg says, a dream to some, a nightmare to others. Thank you. Emily Miller says, I was making a joke out of Watch Party. Oh, yes, I'm with you. I'm with you. Thank you, Emily. Again, when I get a couple of different threads, sometimes I have to extrapolate, but I get you. Suplex says, aren't all watches made of a in China nowadays? Aren't all watches made in China? Are they eating watches in China? Good way to get ticks. John Doe says, Thrash, I wanted to say thank you for doing this live stream. Been going through really bad things, still got some issues to get through, and talking to you and the room was almost therapeutic. Not enough. Oh, thank you. I want to say thank you very much, John Doe. I know some of the things you've been going through. I know you've worked some of them out, but I know it's an ebb and flow process, and it could go on for some time. So I'm very, very glad to be of service, and thank you for the props. That means a lot, dude. Thank you. And the Daily Dan's the Good Stuff says, I done told them. Thank you as well, by the way. I'm surprised that's even still up. Again, I'm afraid if I go to it, I won't be able to get back into this one. But thank you so much, all of you who told the people to hop on. Zuplex, that's probably why you're having trouble logging in. And then you go on to say Rolex watches are very common in China. Rich S says, do not cross the streams. I couldn't have said it better myself. Islands in the streams. Yeah, you see, I told you I could not have said it better myself. Lisa Fields in the house says, hiya, Thrash Pundo. Hi, everyone. If you were one of the people stuck in one of the other streams, yeah. That actually happened a couple months ago. I can't remember the exact details, but you remember I went to do a live stream. It locked up. I went out and came back, and by the time I came back and got the thing up and going again, a bunch of people had signed on. Oops. But anyway, I'm glad you guys decided to sign in on this one. Daryl Johnson says, Bob, Daryl, always good to see you. Oh, Dave Sundstrom says, congrats, TP. Oh, thank you very, very, very much. What jamming in the house? Saying hello to Lisa, but I'm assuming he's saying hello to everyone. Boy, I'm already behind in the comments. Let me just see. That's a good thing, but I just wanted to say, make sure I don't miss anybody. So I'm gonna go do that thing where I go way back and then try to zoom through. Daryl Johnson says, okay, hit that like button. You got it. And subscribe if you haven't already. Lance Chaffin says, hi, Elisa and Emily. Lance, so glad you could make it. Sorry if you're one of the people who also got confused. Tried to do a stream and it locked. Like I couldn't get it to go live. So I went out and came back in. But I guess a bunch of you were able to log on to that. So yeah, here's where the party is. A lot of people saying hey to Jimmy. Fred Smithberg says, LOL. I just wondered, has any Doctor Who ever been seen in an episode wearing a wristwatch? Because, does a Time Lord tell time? That's a very, very, very good question. Doesn't Perry break one of his watches in one episode? Oh, by the way, Perry, fakest American accent ever. S.J. Malola. I'm sorry, I always butcher your name. S.J. Maola in the house. Hit the like button. Glad to be back. You can call me SJ. Thank you, SJ. I always butcher your name. Thank you. Keith E. Dave or Steve, as I've been calling him, is just too smooth on YouTube. Thank you to whomever you were talking about. Skipping down. Dave Sundstrom says, "You can call me whatever you'd like, Keithy." Oh, Steve's his brother, by the way. Fred Smithberg says Dave Sundstrom needs to start a 24/7 Lawrence Welk bubble stream. Ooh, I'd subscribe to that. Lance Chafin says, "Just don't call me late for dinner. I won't. I always eat my dinner late." Remember back in the 80s? Remember in the 80s, we had dinner at like 9 o'clock. It was considered chic. And you know what I used to have for dinner at 9 o'clock? Steak and eggs. I would have steak and eggs for dinner at 9 o'clock. So I'd have breakfast for dinner um, late night. Oh, God, I miss the 80s. Gary Carpenter says, "Thrasher, I'm here." Yes, and I applaud your perseverance. I'm guessing you're one of the people who was stuck in the alternate stream. Couldn't get that one to go live, had to bounce out and come back in. And you've probably all heard that story by this point. Gary Carpenter says, "Lance, you can call me late for the show." It's quite all right. Like I said, there was some confusion. The Foundation says, "Hey everyone, Foundation, great to see you." Oh, and by the way, as always, if you haven't subscribed to the Foundation, watch please do. They got some great content going out there. I love the Foundation's humorous, quick art posts, and Wajamin's dad jokes rival even mine. Let's see what else. Dave Sundstrom says, "Got a roll, but I wanted to give my pal Bob a virtual high five." Well done, TP. Dave, thank you very much for stopping by. I know you haven't probably been seeing your family all day. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you very, 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 very soon. Lisa Fields. Oh, good idea, but Lisa Fields. Again, thank you. John Doe says, "Plex, I lost Plex. Ugh. Help me, Smithers. I'm turning into Bobby Dylan. Plex, I went through a very bad fire." Oh, yes, that was the fire we were talking about. For those of you who weren't up to date. And we're all doing what we can, setting in positive vibes. Lance Chafin says, "Thrash, congrats on the 200 subs. Thank you very much. Again, I couldn't have done it without you guys." Gary Carpenter says, "Thrasher, did you see the show last night?" I actually saw it this morning while I was having my coffee. Oh, and my favorite Halloween special has Judd Hirsch and Merritt Hartley, and it's called "The Halloween That Almost Wasn't." It's very cute. It's a kid show, but there's enough humor in it to make it funny for adults, so the whole family could watch it. And of course, I think my favorite Halloween horror movie. I love Trilogy of Terror. I absolutely adore that one, and I can imagine parents being a little "Ugh" when kids watch it. But The Dark Night of the Scarecrow, I think that's my favorite one. And oh, by the way, Dave, if you're still here, you gotta go out and watch White Zombie. You gotta. It's a great movie. Let's just see what's going on here. I'm skipping down because I'm way behind. Sarita Abney in the house says, "Hey, Thrash." And hey to you, by the way. Trey Myers, I almost missed your. Yeah, yes, there were some technical difficulties, but I applaud your uh, perseverance. Perseverance pays off. Zublik says, "Social media can be therapeutic, particularly when it's mine. And it's therapeutic for me, too." Tom the Hungry Jerk says, "Hi, Sarita. A lot of people having fellowship." Trey Myers says, "I love the Zuni Warrior doll. That's my favorite bit in the whole part, the whole trilogy of terror." And Lance Champ, you know what, Lance? Thank you. He wants to remind everybody, Dave is doing 24/7 live streams now, where he's posting, sort of, I guess you would call it a best of compilation. He's taking some of his older posts and running them in a loop on his other channel when he's not doing live stuff, like having me. Trey Meyer says, "Mine too, Rob. Glad you enjoyed." And Gary Carpenter says, "I know it's not the foundation of law and order. No, it's the foundation of flesh and blood." Google that. Keith E says, "Just went on, is still showing 0 thumbs up. So I went ahead and unsubscribed to create a little excitement." Just kidding. Leave it to you to find a way of being The ointment on the fly. Keith, you make life fun. Trader Meyer says, "I like your lighthouse." Ah, which one? There's a lighthouse here on this is a picture frame, but there's a lighthouse in it, and then there's that lighthouse behind me actually has a tea light in it, which is long since gone dead, but it used to light up. We have a thing about lighthouses here. I actually in my bridge, I have a plug-in one that also lights up. So yeah, we have this thing about lighthouses. It's a New England thing, I guess you'd say. It says Lance Hendrickson is Stoneface. Lance Chavin says Thrash, check out Mortal Engines. Lance Chavin says Zuper Lance knows Lance. Zuper Lance knows Lance? Okay, I'll buy that. John Doe says there's an animated Halloween show where a vampire teaches two kids about the real origin of Halloween, and he talks about the real meaning of Wicca. That sounds very entertaining. My wife would love that. I'll do some searches on it. If you know the title, let me know, but I'm sure I can find it. I'll just do some digging. Tracer Rosmeyer says the striped one. Yeah, that's the one that has the tea light in it. And that's probably my favorite one too. Tom says, I love lighthouses too. Gary Carpenter says, the Halloween that almost wasn't. Well, it is great. I love it. It's got a great cast too. And again, it's very funny. I remember, I think when I watched it, I think I was babysitting a couple of kids. And it came on, and I'm like, oh, great, a kids show. And I remember like laughing my backside off. So yeah, that's a great Halloween. But Dave's right. There's not a lot of Halloween themed specials. Rich S says, "Who likes this Halloween movie, Monster Squad, from the '80s? The film Monster Squad. I do remember that, but usually when I think Monster Squad, I think of the Fred Grandy Saturday morning cartoon, which Daily Dan has been showing on some of his night flights, which is they're just a riot. I'll let you watch them and get a handle of it. But long story short, a dude in the museum reanimates three Universal monsters. It was sort of not in the museum before it was not in the museum. Uh, Lisa Fields, I like lighthouses too. The Foundation says I like a good haunted lighthouse story. Day of the Triffids. Gary Carpenter says, Rich S, that was a great Saturday morning show. Yes, he's talking about the show as well, but apparently Rich S is talking about the film. I did see the film. I don't recall much about it, but I do remember watching it. Emily Miller says, I like a good haunted anything story. Time permitting, we might have a couple of horror Halloween stories later this evening. Foundation says, anybody remember watching Around the Twist? Was that set in a lighthouse? The twist, I don't recall. The fog, part of the fog was set in a lighthouse. Zuplik says, my favorite horror comedy is Mad Monster Party. I have it on DVD. I have it on videotape. Yeah, Phyllis Diller. Phyllis Diller's great in that. Gary Carpenter says the Drac Pack cartoons were good. They certainly were. John Doe says my go-to Halloween movies are Night of the Living Dead. Love it. And the Evil Dead trilogy. Those are great too. But Night of the Living Dead is probably my favorite horror, possibly sci-fi movie of all time. Lance Chafin says Monster Squad from the 80s. Apparently he's a big fan as well. Ziplik says, does anybody remember the Groovy Ghoulies? I actually went to Halloween when I was like 7 as Napoleon Bones apart. So yes, I certainly do. That sounded was part of the Archies, didn't it? Oh, Truth Miner says Around the Twist is an Australian show. That's probably why, though I racked my brains, I couldn't think of it. Skipping down. Tom says, got the comic of Mad Monster Party. Never seen the show. It's a stop motion animation. It's actually quite good. It's almost as good as those Rankin Bash Christmas shows at a lower budget. Tom Lermy in the house. Tom, so good to see you. One of the writers of Batman 66 TV show, Stanley Ralph Ross, developed the Monster Squad. I believe it. Emily Miller says, Blix, thanks to my dad, I knew so many good songs like that. Dave Clooney said, Lance, are you being stalked again? Oh, God, I hope not. Trey the Meyer says, I've watched a lot of Australian TV shows. That's how I know it. I've seen a few, not a lot of them. James Dye in the house. James, good to see you. Says, hi, everyone. So glad you could make it. Excellent. Emily Miller says, Lance, our cat crossed the Rainbow Bridge Tuesday night. Is that code for something? The one-armed man had two left shoes. A lot of people saying hi to James, and they should. Oh, it just, when I saw Tracy Romero says, I am so sorry, Emily. It just dawned on me. I am so sorry I made light. Commiserations, my friend. John H says, hi, Thrash. John H, hey to you. John H in the house. Welcome to the party, John H. I'm skipping down to make sure a lot of people are having condolences for Emily because they knew right out the gate what she was talking about. And are a lot more sensitive. But again, I wasn't being insensitive. I was being obtuse. There's a difference. James Guy says, better late than never. Good point. Good point. Daryl Jones says, I watched Brain Addict on YouTube. Does that count? Of course it does. Let's see what else we got here. A lot of people filtering in. Emily Miller says she was 15. That's a very, very, very longevity for a cat. Oh, North Alabama cryptid Mr. and Mrs. Knack says, hey, Thrash. And hey to you, I'm going to abbreviate your very cool name. I'm just going to call you Alabama Cryptid. And I want to welcome you to the party. So glad you could make it. And both Mr. and Mrs. And actually, Knack work is even better. Knack, and welcome to the party. Thank you so much for joining us. We're having a huge 200 subscriber celebration. And thank you, Retro Cereal in the house, ENC. I am so happy you could make it. Thank you so much. Congrats on 200 subs. Thank you so much. You helped a lot, by the way. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to do a double whammy here. I am on Facebook. Same exact title, same exact handle. You can find me on Facebook. Please make my friend association on Facebook. Ian, I tried to find yours, and I couldn't. I might be doing something stupid. We can't rule it out. So here's a suggestion. Find Thrash Bundle Pawns on Facebook and submit me a friend request. I will, of course, honor that request, and we'll take it from there. But, Ian, thank you for making it. Again, I couldn't have done it without you. Lisa Field says, Tracy, I watched Prisoner on Cell Block H. That was considered a little risque when it was, I think I was like 12, 13 when it was on. And I had to be careful making sure nobody knew I was watching it. Let's see. Oh, the Unapologetic Geek is in the house. Congrats on the big 200. Tug, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for your congrats. And thank you so much. We had an absolute outstanding time. I was just telling people about the watch party we were doing for Not a Living Dead. Even with the technical problems we were having, it was an absolute blast, and I can't wait to do another. And again, welcome to the party, and thank you very, very much. Dilly Dan's the good stuff says, greeting, guys. Welcome back, Dan. And again, I was telling people about you having the Monster Squad Saturday morning shows on your night flights, which are a lot of fun. Gary Carpenter says Thrasher Halloween with the new Addams Family. Haven't seen it. A lot of people saying hello to ENC and Tug. I just did a little jump here. So, boom. Ah, yes. Sweet Abney who again, thank you very much for joining us. Congrats, Thrash, on your 200 subs. Thank you so much. The Unapologetic Geek. I'm just going to call you Tug. You know that. Yeah, his Facebook. I feel weird being one of the only people liking his posts. Thanks, Tug. Tom Laramie in the house says, "Congrats on your 200 subs, Thrash. Thank you. I could have done it without you guys, and thank you very much. At the risk of the Mutual Admiration Society, it really does mean a lot. That how much you guys have actually helped me along the way." Tug says, "Hello, all. Love the warm welcome." Well, again, you guys are always welcome on my channels. Fred Smithberg says, no one crosses this bridge. I'm going to come in again. No one crosses this bridge by me unless I can answer the questions 3. Remember from Sesame Street? Actually, I remember it. You're being silly. I remember it from Monty Python and the Most Holy Grail. Lisa Fields, Thrash, me too. I would sneak in and watch it. LOL. Yeah, I was always afraid of my mom with the copy. She'd make me shut it off. Oh, Daily Dan, brilliant. Daily Dan has given us one of his famous links to Retro Serial. I'm guessing most of you who I met through Ian and Dave are already there, but yes, definitely. If you haven't already, subscribe to Retro Serial. And not just to see me, to see Ian too. I'm almost caught up. The foundation says, at Thrash, are you on Instagram or TikTok? Not yet. Those are my next step. No, not yet. My wife's on TikTok, and I'm always asking her to post my videos, and she won't do it because she doesn't like me. And but so either I'll talk her into doing it, or I'll have my own soon. But right now, Facebook. Lance Chafin says, Thrash rules. Hashtag Thrash rules. Oh, well, hashtag. Emily Miller says, I am Foundation. You didn't ask me, but still. I kind of went without saying. But yes, when I am on those things, I will also sign up to yours as well, Emily. John Doe says, my oldest cat was 19. That's wow. The Foundation says, you were next on the list to Emily. That was very kind of you. Tom says we'd see the Holy Grail at the midnight movies growing up. Loved midnight movies. Guess what my favorite midnight movie was? Come on, guess. I want to see in comments. Guess what my favorite midnight movie is? John Doe says my favorite prom night movie was Prom Night 2. Hello, Mary Lou. Goodbye, Heart. Let's see. Tom says, seen Bobcat in the wild once. Oh, an actual Bobcat. We had a nature park here on Cape Cod a while ago. And they had a Bobcat in it. And this guy was mad because it was in its little box asleep. And this guy's like, I paid good money. I want to see the Bobcat. And like, well, it's asleep. If it comes out, we'll let you know. So you can come over and look at it. He goes, can I pat it? And the poor girl's like, no, you can't pat the Bobcat. And I remember I was like, you know what? No, I want to see him do it. Yeah, you can't pat the Bobcat. So the book says Night of the Living Dead. Good guess, but wrong. James Dye got it. Rocky Horror. Yes, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Saw it at least 24 times, probably over 30, but at least 24 times. I got lost again. Tug also guessed Night of the Living Dead. It's a great guess, but no, Rocky Horror. So all he said to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, you are correct. Fred Smithberg said, heavy metal, favorite midnight movie? Great guess, but wrong. I don't know if I ever saw that in the midnight movie. Used to watch it on HBO all the time, and I own a copy. No, Rocky Horror. Let's see. Oh, yes, the Rocky. Everyone loves the Rocky Horror Picture Show. In the back row. Daryl Johnson says, so they say, but this one we have was feral. Up until a month ago, she just came in the house and went to sleep. Poor thing. Can't hear a thing. Oh, the cat. Oh, I'm so sorry. John H says, I loved how the Statler brothers sang "Hello, Mary Lou," the group's bass saying "Goodbye, Heart" right before the lead singer. Good catch, John H. Yeah, that was the reference I made a little while ago. Tom Henry says Lawrence Welk and his champagne bubbles. Yes, a friends. One of the funniest things they did ever. One of the funniest things they ever did on Welcome Back, Cotter was when Horshack's trying to do the dishes and he uses too much soap and it makes this big like blob of bubbles and he's like, "Help, help. We're being attacked by Lawrence Welk." And my grandparents used to watch Lawrence Welk and I my spirit left my body. I was laughing so hard. Zuplik says, "Do you do the dance T-puns?" Well, it's just a jump to the left, and then a step to the right. No, I don't. Tough guys don't dance. Remember that. Lance Chafin says Cindy had a girl after me on Dave's stream last night. Cool. Tom says watch Rocky Horror every Halloween. Few more days. Yes, it is a few more days, isn't it? Big Guys 45 says, "I'm back." We never lost faith in you. Gary Carpenter says, "I think the Rocky Horror movie was stupid." You know, a lot of people do. You either love it or you hate it. So no judgments here. I remember the first time I saw it. I think I was 17. My very stodgy um, well-to-do father. We were in Boston. He goes, "What do you want to do?" And I go, "I want to go to a midnight movie. I want to see Rocky Horror Picture Show." He's like, "Okay." And the cab driver got us lost and wanted us to pay like $50, and it was weird. But my father actually took me to see it for the first time, and no, he didn't like it. Gary Carpenter says, "You know that Tim Curry's in a wheelchair." I know he had a stroke. Poor thing. Keith E says, "Let's dance the time warp again. Let's do the time warp again." Uh, skipping down again. Big Guy says Tim Curry is a legend. Love the dude. You must have one of his albums, like I Do the Rock or one of those. Tug says Freaks is also a great midnight screening movie. It really is. It really is. Although I think my second favorite has got to be Fright Night. I love Fright Night. Of course, a good Italian giallo movie is always great on a midnight movie. As I always said, there's always room for giallo. Get it? Um, John Doe says there was a theater and Saturday at midnight with audience participation. Yeah, I still miss midnight movies in my area. They stop them for any number of reasons, I'm afraid. But yeah. Fred Smithwick says there is something about listening to Halloween records that makes the story creepier. The slight crackle of needles on the vinyl makes it. There is something about old style vinyl that just it creates a mood. Uh, oh wow, I jumped way back. Hang on, I'm just gonna try to catch up. Talk amongst yourselves. Oh, Lance Draven says, "Here's Johnny." Uh, Tug says, "If they don't dance well, they're no friends of mine." Men Without Hats. Little trivia about them. Originally they were supposed to be called Men Without Hate. They were like a hippie band, but their first album press, there was a misprint. Instead of saying Men Without Hate, they put Men Without Hats, and they didn't have enough money to redo the cover, so they just said, "We'll be Men Without Hats." Gary Carpenter says, "Cindy, let's boogie." James Dye says another great movie is Phantom of the Paradise. I love the Phantom of the Paradise. We were just talking about that the other night. I love Phantom of the Paradise. Um, uh, and I just jumped. Oh, here we are. Uh, Tug says Phantom of the Paradise is one of those cult flicks that has somehow passed me by. A lot of people, it did. I love Paul Williams as a villain. Name another movie with Fred Williams as a villain. Fred Smithberg says, I friggin' love Fright Night. Me too. I saw it at a midnight movie years ago with a girl I was crushing on. And, oh, by the way, somewhere in my garage, I have a copy of the soundtrack on vinyl. Yes, vinyl. Uh, Fred Smithberg says, you have to have faith for that to work on me, Mr. Vincent. Peter Vincent, Vampire Hunter. Love that. That was a great Roddy McDowell film, and he managed to do both horror and comedy quite well. Foundation says, anyone a fan of Gremlins movies? I've heard for a long while now there's talk about a third being made. I've heard that too, and that would be amazing. My the funniest trivia I have about it is if you watch really, really closely in the first one, Robbie the Robot's on the phone in the background and uses his two best lines. I find the question totally without reason, and I generally don't use it, so it promotes Rust. Lance Javen says, Fright Night, good soundtrack. Oh, one of the best. One of the best soundtracks of all time. Tom says, midnight movies get home at 3 a.m. Well, yeah, unless you stop for breakfast first. There used to be a lot. There used to be in the good old days when Cape Cod was fun. There would be 24-hour restaurants, and guess what you could get at 3 in the morning? That's right, steak and eggs. Let's just see. I did another jump forward. Here we go. People say a lot of people want a third Gremlins movie. I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. Fred Smithberg says, haha, the story is awesome about men without hats. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, a friend told me that years ago. Ellen Lowe says, I'm wearing a Phantom of the Opera sweatshirt. The mask glows in the dark. Oh, that is awesome. You know, years ago, I took the family to New York on a vacation and we saw Phantom in Broadway. And of course, as you know, after all these decades, it's finally wrapping up. I've seen clips of Phantom of the Paradise. It looks good. It is. It's a very culty movie. It's really it's a mockery of the American music industry. I love how the rival group goes through three different incarnations. They start out doing like surfer rock, and then they become like doo wop, and then they become like a hair metal goth band. It's indicative of bands reinventing themselves if they want to stay successful. Emily Miller says, Tug, I didn't know it for years until the damn thing was glowing in my closet. Freaked me out. The sweatshirt. I can see her going to ah. Let's just see. Trying to catch up here. Uh-oh. I lost my place again. Oh, here we are. I'm just going to skip through people having fellowship. And if I skip a particularly intense comment, please remind me, or at least print it again. I'll try to get back to it if I missed it. Zublik says, did you know Brian De Palma started out doing X-rated movies with Robert De Niro? Are you referring to Body Double? Gary Carpenter says, I just love Elvira, Mistress of the Dark and Haunted Hills. Likewise. Lisa Field says, steak and eggs is the best. It certainly is. Tom Murray says, I like the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown too, Tracy. Who doesn't? How can you not? Zublik says, it isn't lobsters. No, I can't stand lobster. My grandfather had me eat it once. He was a lobster fanatic. And one night we were having lobsters, and instead of letting me have hot dogs, he said, no, just once try lobster with me. And I go, okay. And it tasted like rubber. And he goes, no, you have to use the melted butter. And I go, okay, it tastes like rubber dipped in melted butter. Next. Tom says, steak and eggs, official meal of the astronauts. How do you get that in a tube? 3 says, you need rest, John. Dave Clooney says, I'm with you, Thrash. I miss all the all night diners. Don't we all? Liz Javen says, Gary, it's a graveyard smash. Lisa Field says, night diners were the best. They certainly were. Gary Carpenter says, I just couldn't believe that Bobby Boris Pickett is dead. a girl my daughter worked with actually was his niece. Emily Lewis says Waffle House is always open for a late night breakfast. They kill late night restaurants here in Cape Cod. They what they do is that when the bars close, they want to get the people off the street, so they don't want them to have anything to do, so they'll just go and crash. So they close everything now between 1 and 3 a.m. Everything. So people will just go home and go to sleep. So there are no more late night restaurants, and it's very, very, very sad. Les Javen says, and Denny's. There was a Denny's on Cape Cod years ago, but it closed. Um, uh, Les Javen says, there's Shoney's. We don't have Shoney's around here, but I've heard of them thanks to Rick and Morty. James Dye says the lobster was overcooked. It would have been like less rubbery. Tug says, I have to go, guys. Just wanted to stop and give Thrash warm regards and congrats. Good night, all. Tug, thank you so much for stopping by. Stay in touch. Peace. Trey the Meyer says, I like crabs, they're better. They're not kosher. Gary Cameron says, Serena, I'll tell that to your town council. B. Pond says, which grandpa? B. Ponds. Folks, you're not going to believe who B. Ponds is. It's my father. My father's joined us for my 200th subscriber celebration. Dad, tell me you subscribed as well. Oh, and no, not Daddy Gramps. That was my father's father. No, it was Grandpa Jim, my mom's father. He was the lobster fanatic. I don't recall Daddy Gramps ever eating lobster. But I know he loved turkey at Thanksgiving. But everybody, my father, folks. Dad, I can't tell you how happy I am that you made it tonight. That was very, very kind of you. Thank you. A lot of people saying goodbye to Tug. A lot of people mentioned Waffle House or Denny's. Oh, IHOP. We still have an IHOP here on Cape Cod. Gary Carpenter. Gary, I just jumped again. Gary Carpenter said, I despise seafood and I'm a Pisces. Well, then you're not a cannibal. Tom says, I'm the only Bostonian who has the lobster. I guess so. Zublik says, sacrilege, T-Pons. James Dye says, I'm a Jersey Shore clam digger. You really from the Jersey Shore? Used to love Atlantic City. John Doe says, so 2 questions. Question 1, how yours doing? Fine, I guess. Question 2, what are you drinking? It's supposed to be 200 subs. I am drinking generic apple cider in the spirit of the Halloween season. But I'm also doing quite well. Zublik says, Papa T-Pons? Yes, we'll go with that, Papa T-Pons. Oh. Okay. False flag operation. It's my cousin Brian. Brian, how you doing? Brian, I'm sorry. I saw B. My first thought was Bob. It's my cousin Brian. Brian, how you doing, man? I'm so glad. Yeah, Brian and I just reconnected very recently on Facebook. Even though he doesn't live particularly far away from me, we never talk. But anyway, I was chatting with him on Facebook, and he very nicely has come. And Brian, please, you subscribe, and have your brothers do too. You know, I asked Uncle Joel, but he refuses to get involved in technology. But anyway, Brian, great to see you. And who knows, folks? Maybe my father will show up. I think I just created a Hollywood moment, don't you guys? But yeah, by the way, Brian, do you ever remember Daddy Gramps eating lobster? He loved fish. He had his own fishing boat. He used to take me out fishing with him. I'm sure you guys too. So I know he liked seafood, but I don't recall him ever eating lobster. But anyway. Tom says bottom feeders and they're not kosher. Yes, and by the way, Tracy, I was teasing, by the way, about the not kosher bit. Cindy D says I'm a Pisces too, and I hate fish too. Lance Chapin says hiya, Grandpa Pons. Unfortunately, Grandpa Pons is no longer with us. I'm 55. How long do you think us Ponses live? But anyway, it was very nice of you all to greet my family member, even though it wasn't the one we thought it was. He's still pretty darn cool. So he says interesting and eerie, Emily. Dan is still laughing, LOL. Zublik says good bee pawns. Trithos Meyer says it's nice that you have a nice family. We do. We're sort of spread all over the place. In fact, I've been trying to get back in touch with Keone. Keone's my cousin who lives in Hawaii, who was actually one of my first subscribers, but I haven't talked to him in like over a year. I think I talked to him last Christmas. Was the last time I talked to him. I've been trying to get him to join me on Facebook. And then Liz says, "Wait, so Brian is who now? Brian is my cousin. Brian is my cousin Brian. Um, we all live here in Massachusetts. But if you've ever heard me mention my uncle Rick, he's my uncle Rick's second son." B Pond says, "I'm just going to call you Brian. I'm sorry, B Pond just doesn't. Fish and shellfish. Yes, I certainly saw him eat plenty of those. Well, you remember the last reunion? They got those big buckets of. Well, enough about our personal lives. Sarita Abney says, Lindsay, you sound like my grandson. He see food and yum for him too. Everybody's telling Emily who Brian is. Brian, you're the guest of honor tonight. Number one dude says, hey, Thresh, almost off the clock. Well, dude, I am so glad you could make it, even if you have to actually shave a little company time in order to do so. Always good to see you, and thanks for joining me. I couldn't have got to 200 subs without you. Oh, Dragonmar says kosher, not kosher here. I don't keep kosher, and I like shellfish and ham. Ooh, shellfish and ham, yummy. Well, not together. It was so funny. I used to work in a Chinese restaurant, and we were talking about. That's the great thing about Chinese food, just how conducive it is to doing good kosher Chinese food. The problem is, I like the pork too much. Oh, Brian says, I'm the favorite son. How could you not be, Brian? How could you not be? John Doe says, what is the worst horror movie and the worst remake horror movie? A worst horror movie? Manos Hands of Fate, I would go with the worst horror movie. Now, as far as the worst remake horror movie, that's kind of tough to say because it depends on your personal tastes. I Am Legend. Yeah, I went there. I hated the reconceptualization of I Am Legend. It was just, I don't think they even read the book. Oh, Emily Miller says, me too, Brian, as I'm an only child. Brian, you're going to love Emily. She's just the greatest. She really is. Zublik says, they say Plan 9 from outer space is awful. It is, but it's awful in a charming and endearing kind of way. If you watch it as a horror science fiction spoof, it's so much fun. Manos has virtually no redeeming qualities. It's just dreadful, vile, awful. Ugh. John Dose's Play Night is a good movie. Oh, wait. Les Chapin says, pickles aren't kosher? How? I see them in kosher delis all the time. Well, it depends on what kind of pickles. Emily Miller says, Tracy, my daughter is converted but not kosher. More than understand. Serena Abney says, Emily, you are so lucky. I dreamed of being the only child at times. Everyone who has siblings told me the same thing. Tom Lemon says, John Doe, anything by Ed Wood. Tracy Meyer says, on Christmas, we go out for Chinese food, LOL. It's a tradition, every Christmas Eve for 40 years. I think that's what we've done. Yes, Chinese food on Christmas Eve is a thing. Zublik says Total Recall the remake. Never saw it. Never saw it. I've heard it wasn't great, but number one dude, man, I was great MST3K. Oh, the MST3K version is awesome. Tom says American Chinese food is too different than the traditional Chinese food. Yeah, I believe that. Lance Chaffin said Space Mutiny MST3K. Wasn't that a South African film? Sidney D says Mars Attacks is awfully good. LOL. I loved Mars Attacks. Of course, I was a fan of the cards as well. Trezos Myers says we are all the greatest. LOL. Yes, we are. Gary Carpenter says Tracy, the Japanese go to KFC for Christmas. Azublik says sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Les Chafin says there's a pickle company called Kosher, I believe it. Skipping down. John Doe says, I believe they're making a sequel to the Christmas Story. They made you could call it a sequel on PBS. It was a made-for-TV movie that takes place when he's a teenager. But for some reason, they don't count that as a sequel. I believe it actually stars one of the Dylan boys as him as a teenager. I can't remember which one. Of course, Melanie Dillon played the mom, and she was the mother of the Dillon boys, Matt Dillon and Keith Dillon, Kevin Dillon. One of the Emily Miller says Emily is the only I found in team. My coach used to say, "There's no I in team," and I would say to him, "Yes, but there is an ME," and he'd have me take a lap. It was worth it. Fred Smithberg says, when is the last time anyone had Cracker Jacks? Do they even make them anymore? They do, and probably 30 years. Dilly Dan's the good stuff says, I have no doubt the worst movie I ever sat through was Glenn or Glenda. I actually barfed. And of course, and of course, that is guy who did Plan 9. We were just talking about guy who did Plan 9, and I'm too busy laughing hysterically like an imbecile to remember. You barfed. Skipping down. Oh, the girls are making popcorn now. I'm hungry again. Because Melinda Dillon, and she wasn't Matt Dillon's mom. She wasn't? And I said Melanie, I'm sorry. Melinda. I thought she was Matt Dillon's mom. Well, then it was Kevin Dillon. Was stepmother, maybe? John Doe says the eternal best Christmas special, I would have to say, is The Honeymooners with the Juicer. I can't remember that one. I'm going to have to take your word for it. I can't remember that one. Gary Carpenter says, have you heard they made a sequel to The Christmas Story? I believe that was the one I was talking about where it was set when he was a teenager. John H. says there was a sequel of sorts called A Summer Story with Charles Grodin and... Oh, no. This one was something different. It was around 4th of July, though. John H. says, Ed Wood. Thank you. I was too busy laughing like an idiot to remember Ed Wood. Fred Smithberg said, just recently had to look up the difference between jelly, jam, and preserves. Why? Dave Clooney says, yes, there is a sequel to Christmas Story coming out on HBO Max. It stars most of the original cast. Well, not Melinda Dillon. She died years ago. To say nothing of Mr. McGavin. Daryl Johnson says Japanese do celebrate Christmas. They certainly do. Tom says, I'm hungry. Yes, you and me both now. Emily Miller says, that's what makes our team great, Tracy. The love. Zublik says, buffering. Am I buffering? Oh, not again. John Doe says, once they start bagging the Apple Jacks, I stop buying the Apple Jacks. Oh, that's right. They do. What saves on packaging. Musical 67 is in the house. Says, good evening, Thrash and everyone. Hoping you all had a happy Thursday. I'm late because I just got home from work. Congratulations again on 200 subs, Thrash. I'm so happy you are back on Facebook too. I am very I didn't know I left, but anyway, yes. Musical 67, thank you so much for joining us. We're having fun, and it's even more fun now that you're here. Thank you. And again, I couldn't have done it without you guys. Johnny says Gavin died in 2006, about 2 days after Dawn Nuts. They were in two Disney films together. Wow. Wow, that's cool stuff. Dilly Dunn's good stuff says, I love the movie Night Flyer, the King movie about the vampire. I can't remember that one. It's ringing a bell, but I just can't put them together. Tracy Rossmeyer says, happy 200, Rob. Thank you so much. Emily Miller says, I put mini marshmallows in my Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I can feel my arteries hardening just thinking about it, but it does sound good. Lisa Field says, Belinda Dillon is no relation to Matt Dillon and Kevin Dillon. Really? I am agog all these years. I thought she was their mom. I defer. I apologize. For years I thought that she was their mom. Tom says, anybody remember the summer of my German soldier in the 70s? I did. Christy McNichol. I do remember that one. Very, 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 very sad movie. Dave Clooney says, I guess Ralphie and his friends bring their kids back to where they grew up. Ah, yes. Johnny says Melinda Dillon is still alive and has no relation to the Dillon Bros. Her real name is Clardy. Then somebody else I was thinking of died. I am, when you have so many anecdotes and little tidbits of information, you cross reference them sometimes. I must have a wire crossed. So thank you for correcting me, folks. I am so sorry. I would never try to mislead you, but I honestly thought that Melinda Dillon was the Dillon brothers' mom, and that she passed on. So I don't know where I'm getting my misinformation, but thank you. Fred Smithberg says, "Did anybody get a Ronco gift for Christmas, like the Ronco record vacuum, LOL, or the Buttoneer or the Pocket Fisherman?" No, I wanted a Pocket Fisherman, and they never got it for me. Daily Den's the good stuff says, Darren McGavin, awesome guy. He was in my favorite TV show of all time, The Night Stalker 73. We were just talking about that one, actually. Zublik says Melinda Dillon was also in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. She certainly was. John H. says Melinda Dillon was in an early 1985 Twilight Zone episode where she could stop time. Greg Mullaney played her husband. I don't recall that one. I do remember the show. I don't recall that one. Daryl Johnson says Peter Billingsley isn't the only original cast member returning for the sequel, out in November on HBO Max. Good. Lance Chafin says, "Why is everyone ignoring me?" We weren't. I'm sorry if I missed a couple of your posts. I am terribly, terribly, terribly sorry. They're coming through rapid fire. I thought I got most of them. I'll try to keep getting them, Lance. But no, we would never ignore you, Lance. So sorry. Keithy, from an accounting point of view, 200 makes it easy to figure out what percentage of your subscribers are watching. You raise a very, very valid point. So 12.5% of my viewers are watching. Uh, let's just see. A lot of people mentioning to Lance he's not being ignored. You see, it's not just me who's not ignoring you. John H says, Me TV is running a marathon of Kolchak this Sunday. I remember watching it on the Sci-Fi Channel years ago. But that's cool. I'll try to catch some on Me TV. Lance Javen says, yes, you see. A lot of people saying hello to Terrell Eugene Bellinger. I'm like, wow, Terrell Eugene Bellinger in the house. Teb says, happy 200 subs. Thrash, hi. Terrell, I want to thank you for joining us. It's Whenever one of my long-term subscribers shows up, it always means a lot. Thank you for joining us. I've been saying this to everybody. I'm going to say it again. You guys are probably sick of hearing it, but I couldn't have done it without you. You guys are great, and it's great having you here. Right now we're talking mostly about Halloweeny stuff and how great it is that I made it to 200. And we had a false flag. We thought my father was in the house, but it was my cousin Brian. That was also pretty cool, but it was very funny. Uh Lance David says it's okay, everyone. Lance, thank you. That's the spirit. Uh, Big Guy says hi again. Welcome back. Choo, 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 choo. Oh, and Les J. also says hi to 45s. Big Guy says was gonna spin one more record on my channel again. Please do. Emily says somebody go find Julie for Lance. Julie. Julie? Julie, 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 do you love me? That's all I'll sing. A lot of people saying hello. Zuplik says, surprising there are no bots tonight, Lance. You know, you're right. In the last couple, we haven't had bots. Someone says the way the algorithms work, um, you get them early on and then you kind of shake them off, but it's a pity. We were just getting really good at getting rid of them. Terrell Eugene Bellinger says, favorite sitcom Halloween episode of all time, Sanford and Son. I love the Sanford and Son. Well, wait. Yeah, I like the sound. But another good one was. There's got to be other good ones. Um, Happy Days. Happy Days had a good one. Yeah, I like that one too. And well, we'll start with that and move forward. Charlie Jean Bellinger. Oh yeah, I already got that one. Sorry. John Doe says, Thrash, have you ever thought of doing an American tour? I think that would be excellent. That sounds fun. I don't tour much. I don't get around much, but that sounds like it'd be a cool thing to do. Yeah. Emily says Terrell Roseanne had the best Halloween episodes. I don't recall that one, although recurring, you have to give it to the Simpsons Treehouse of Terror. And John Doe says Thrash. I mean, no, a lot of people call me Trash. It's okay. What didn't the Ghost and Mrs. Muir have a really good Halloween episode where they get an actual ghost? Oh, and Zublik says, was the one with nuts in the Dick Van Dyke Show count? I think it does. I will. Cindy says, welcome back. Your dreams are your ticket out. Daily Dan says, one of my favorite Halloween movies is The Sleepy Hollow, not the one with Goldblum, the one with the Johnny Depp one. The Singleton brothers did that one, I believe. Keithy says, Sammy, if you're here, can you please pull up the link for Big Guy 45's page that should say Danny series killing Danny. Danny series killing Danny? That doesn't sound very nice. Tom the Hungry Jerk says Fat Albert Halloween Special. Yeah, I love that one. James Dye says Treehouse of Horror Simpsons. Yes, indeed. Gary Carpenter says H.J. Garfield. Yeah, that was a good special as well. Holy cow, Gary Carpenter, you're right. Sanford and Son had a Christmas episode. Yes, but because it was haunting, I thought it was Halloween. But yes, it was a Christmas episode. I just remember the ghost coming and tormenting him. But yeah, it was a Christmas Carol. Very, very good. Serena Abney says, I like the Jeffersons Halloween show. I don't recall that one, but let's just see. Cindy D says, Family Matters when Laura and Urkel got robbed at the bank and Carl Winslow saved them. He said Carl had a bad accent. Love that one. Oh, Tracy. Well, it's time for me to go to sleep. Gotta get up early for work. Have a nice night and week, everyone. Tracy, thank you so much. It was very, very nice having you. Have a great night. Troll Eugene Bill just says, I'm going to go with Teb. My all-time fave Halloween episode is got to be the one from season 3 of that 70s show in which the cast paid homage to parodied Alfred Hitchcock. I never saw that one, but it sounds amazing. Oh, Quantum Leap. How could we have not forgotten Quantum Leap? Quantum Leap is going to be my favorite episode, Halloween episode of a TV show. The Foundation says, Terrell, I always liked the Halloween episode of Bottom. Not sure if you guys got that sitcom in the U.S. That was one of the ones with Rick Mail and Adrian Edmondson, right? I it, there were two, and I might be confusing them. One was oh no, the other one was Filthy Rich and Cat Flap. I've seen all those. I haven't seen all of Bottom, but I will check. It's got to be on YouTube, unless those fascists at the BBC have pulled it off. Speaking of Halloween moments, Rick Mayall's death is like something out of a Halloween movie. He was messing around on his quad bike. For those of you who didn't know, Rick Mayall died. He was Rick from The Young Ones. And it overturned and knocked him unconscious. And his wife looked out the window and saw him in this very deliberate pose, sort of, and thought he was horsing around and left him there for like 3 hours. And it was only when she went back and he was in the exact same position that she realized that he was actually very badly injured. And by the time they got him medical attention, they were able to revive him, but he was never the same again and ultimately succumbed to his injuries. A very sad story. But of course, he gave us his own epitaph. Rick is dead. The people's poet is dead. And I'm saying that with all sincerity. I loved Rick Mayall in my youth and still do. Music Girl 67 says yes, from the second season of Happy Days. There was an episode titled Haunted where Potsy, Richie, Ralph, and the others throw a party in a supposed haunted house from the neighborhood. Yes, that's the one. Skipping down. Oh, Dilly Dan's The Good Stuff has given us a link to Big Guys 45. So, Keith, catch that when you can. Daryl Johnson said Lawrence Welk had a good Halloween show. I don't remember that one, but I'm sure he did. Superplex says The Simpsons. He disappeared. Very Halloweeny. Uh, The Simpsons are so beyond the expiration date that they should pay to have us watch them. John 8 says Mark Copagia, who played the son in Julia, played Fred Sanford as a boy. That sounds interesting. Gary Carpenter says Disney's Sleepy Hollow is the best. Emily Miller says Lawrence Welk was scary without Halloween. Without Halloween. Cindy D says message retracted. And a message retracted to you. Music Girl 67 says Bewitch had some wonderful Halloween episodes. I just love Bewitch. Lance Javen says, guys, you're my extended family. Love you all as my brothers and sisters. Lance, we love you too, man. Keithy says, thanks, Danny. Hopefully Suri gets it right this time. Zublik says, never heard of Bottom. It's a BBC comedy about these two guys who are roommates, played by Rick Mayall and Adrian Edmondson, and they're just a couple of lowbrow depravos. And that's it in a nutshell. I've only seen a couple episodes, but they're usually trying to get rich or do unsanitary things to women. The Foundation says, that's the one, Thrash. Tom the Huggy Jerk says, of the Scarecrow of Our Money Marsh, I think. I don't know that one. I do know the Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. Love that one. That one. Gary Carpenter says MASH had a Halloween party. It did. Actually, it did. MASH, that, where they all tell horror stories. Yes, they did. That was actually a good episode. BK on the air. Congrats on your 200 subs. Barry, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the exposure you've given me. Thank you for your support and your friendship. And thank you for joining us tonight. And again, for any of you, and I can't picture any of you who haven't already done this, if you haven't actually subscribed to BK on the air, please, please do so. Let's just see here. I fell behind. I'm just skipping down really quick because I got bumped back, so I'm trying to make sure I didn't skip over anybody. Gary Cameron says HJ, the Scarecrow of Romney Marsh was a great. It's been ages since I've seen it. The Foundation says Rick Mail was the best. He certainly was. Cindy D says that's horrible thrash. The epitaph, the story, or the TV show. In any cases, I apologize if I crossed a line. But thank you, Cindy, for keeping me on the narrow and straight. And Lance Chafin says, Emily, I said sisters too. You certainly did. John Doe says Knight Rider had a Halloween episode where they met a creepy man named Bates and he was living in a motel. Ah, excellent. Lisa Field says Thrash. I didn't know that that's how Rick Mail died. Love the young ones. Ah, yes. Okay, what's that story? Yes, very, very sad. Again, he lived for a while, but he was never the same again, sadly. And ultimately succumbed to his injuries. Keith E says, Lance, you could be my brother. Just don't ask to borrow any money and never pay it back. A lot of people saying hi to BK. A lot of people saying hi to BK. BK saying hello, folks. Gary Garber says Kate and Ellie had a Halloween episode. I don't recall that one. I'm racking my brains and I don't recall it. Cindy says the Monster Marsh. Dilly Dan gave us another link to BK on the air. Music Girl 67 said some made-for-TV movies that are terrific for Halloween are The Legend of Sleepy Hollow with a young Jeff Goldblum. I love that one. The Midnight Hour with Shari Belafonte and The Worst Witch. They're all here on YouTube. I also like the one Bermuda Depths. Does anybody remember Bermuda Depths with well, everyone. I think Carl Weathers was in it. Well, wait, it's good. I painted myself into a corner there. Oh, who was the folk singer? He was the voice of the uh uh snowman in the Rudolph. Ho ho, yes, Burl Lives. Burl Lives is in it too. God, that was going to kill me. A lot of it like the Scarecrow of Romney Marsh. I'm starting to think it wasn't the same Scarecrow movie I was talking about. From is content says hi all. From is content. Thank you so much for joining us. By the way, we're doing a little celebration for my 200 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And welcome to the show. Right now, we're talking about favorite Halloween movies, favorite Halloween made-for-TV movies, favorite Halloween specials, or even favorite Halloween episodes of TV shows. So please feel free to chime in. The Foundation says, gotta go, guys. Bedtime, fun, lives as always. Thank you so much for joining us, the Foundation. Take care. Superlink says Jeff Goldblum was in Mr. Frost, a psychological horror film that was very subtle. I don't think it was subtle at all. I think it was really in your face. Jeff Goldblum plays Satan, and he's really good at it. Music Girl 67 is the Bermuda Depths about the Bermuda Triangle. Yes. Long story short, a young boy vacationing near the Bermuda Triangle has many emotional problems, meets a girl who he falls in love with, and she disappears on the back of a sea turtle, When he goes back years later, he finds that the girl is actually a demon and uses a giant demon sea turtle to wreak havoc. And it's actually far more lucid than I'm making it sound. But yes, it is set to be in a triangle. CDD says, "Have a holly jolly Christmas, Burr Lives." Great song. Love Burr Lives. Um, Suriname says, "Hey from." Yes, indeed. Gary Carpenter says, "I've found several different versions of Monster Mash, including the Groovy Ghoulies." Yes, they did used to play it all the time. Music Girl 67 says, "Still waiting for your friend request on my Facebook, Miss Emily." From is content. I think one of my I'm sorry. I think one of the few people who like Frankenstein, the true story with Michael Sarrazin and James Mason. Was that the one with Jane Seymour? I might be thinking of a different miniseries, but I think that's the one you're talking about. If it isn't, give me a little more to go on because it's ringing a bell. But Kevin Scott 76 says hi from Rocket City. Kevin, so nice of you to make it. It's of course my 200 subscriber celebration, but we're talking about all things Halloween, and it's so great to have you here. Daryl Johnson says Dr. Sin, a country priest, leads a rebel band against the king's naval press gangs. Scarecrow of Romney March. Okay, I was thinking of a completely different Scarecrow movie. I was thinking of The Dark Knight of the Scarecrow with Charles Durning. But I'm gonna have to check out the Scarecrow of Romney Marsh now. Zuplik says it is implied that Mr. Frost is, in other words, a supernatural entity, but it is never proven. I think it's a pretty safe bet over the course of the movie that he proves his credentials. But you're right, it's never totally proven. John Doe says Invasion of the Body Snatchers was a remake sequel at the same time found that out on the DVD special features. In fact, yes, it is. In fact, when I was just doing some research on the stuff, I found Brooke Adams, as you know, is in my. I'm gonna have a little swig of this, by the way. I'm parched. Brooke Adams, who's in the second film with Donald Sutherland, which is my favorite rendition. She also has a small part in a third version, which was actually done by Larry Cohen, who did the stuff, by the way. It's a third version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers with Arlie Ermy, which actually isn't bad. It's not phenomenal, but it isn't bad, by the way. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. The only one that I didn't care for is the one with I can't think of her name. Tom Cruise's ex-wife. Well, one of them. But anyway, there's a little synchronicity there with Brooke Adams and the Leonard Cohen movies, and anyway, little tidbit. From his content says yes, Jane Seymour was the bride. Thank you, thank you. Then yes, I do have it on DVD, and I've seen. I actually saw it when it first came to U.S. television in like early '80s. Um, Teb says the Modern Family was known for doing Halloween episodes throughout the course of its entire 11-year run. I did not know that. I did not know that. Kevin Scott 76 says, "Did you see the mashup request you made, Johnny Quest with Hogan's Heroes?" I did not see that, but I could make it work. I'm so sorry. Was that like suggested on one of my posts? That sounds fun. I could probably make that work. Emily Miller says, because it's close to Halloween, Music Girl, things are a bit stronger right now. Good. Kevin Scott 76 says on alternate show beginnings on YouTube. Oh, so it wasn't suggested to me particularly. Well, it's still a good idea. Emily Miller says I've yet to watch Modern Family. Gonna have to give it a go. It's actually a very, very good show. Cindy D says Kidman or Holmes. Kidman. And there was also there was his first one. Why did I do that to myself? Why could I leave well enough alone? Mimi Rogers, Mimi Van Dorn, me. What are the Mimis? Screaming Mimi. Oh yes. As I read down, Teb says Mimi Rogers is Tom Cruise's first wife. Thank you. I was just struggling to get that name. A lot of people saying hello. People. Evelyn says, "Music girl, I hope you don't get offended easily. I post some interesting things. We'll try not to get offended." Uh, Tab says, "Hello, big guys 45s." Cindy D says, "Mimi Rogers, I forget about her. Thanks, Terrell." Yeah, he was like right after Risky Business when he married her. In fact, she was a few years older than he was. Uh, Gary Carpenter says, "Which is night out?" Emily Miller says, "Nah, Gary, I'm staying in. It's supposed to rain." uh, Lance Chafin says, "Emily, I'm GRI. Hopefully that's something good. I don't know all these abbreviations." Kevin Scott 76 says, "You actually requested me to do you actually requested me to do it, and that's my channel." Really? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm getting forgetful my old age. What's a good idea? If I suggested that, wow, I'm more clever than I thought. I'm sorry. Um, that does sound very hit. I'm sorry. Was that a while? I'm sorry. You know, it's funny. I do recall the channel. I don't recall making that suggestion. I do love it. It must have been in some context that I had forgotten. I'm getting very scatterbrained as of late. But anyway, Kevin Scott, let me know when you know what, when I'm not doing my own posts, I'll check out your channel. I'll keep checking it out until I see it as compensation for forgetting myself. But anyway, Kevin, thanks so much for reminding me. Zublick says, "How can Johnny Quest work with Hogan's Heroes? Johnny wasn't even born until after World War II." It's alternate universe type situations, by the way. I'm sure it could be made to work. Like I said, I love the idea myself, and I came up with it. I'm so tired. I've been up all night trying to round off the infinite. Joel Eugene Bellow says Modern Family had the best Halloween episodes. Musical 67 says the Halloween that almost wasn't was a show I used to enjoy as a kid. We were actually just talking about that not too long ago. I remember I was babysitting a couple kids years ago. I think they were friends of my mom's, and I was babysitting these kids, and they wanted to watch it. I'm like, "Oh, great!" Some kids movie. And as I was watching it, I'm like, "This is actually really funny." So it was one of those shows that the whole family could watch. Daily Dan's The Good Stuff has actually, thank you, has given a link to Kevin Scott's 76 channel. Please check it out, and let me know how my suggestion comes out. Johnny says, "So Cruz married younger each time." He certainly did. Lance Chafin says, "I know, just keep it clean." Well said. Fred Smithberg says, "Zublik sounds like a music band." It probably is. Emily Miller says, "My former brother-in-law is Kevin Scott." Small world. Gary Carpenter says, "Rita Rudner, Witch's Night Out." Ah, there we go. Tab says, "Do you remember the criminally underrated sitcom that aired on Fox in the early 2010s called Raising Hope with Martha Plimpton of the Goonies fame and the late, great Cloris Leachman?" I do remember that. I do remember that. Emily Miller says, "John, at least he can keep it above 25 years of age." Yes, indeed. Um, Fred Smithberg says, "What skit is everybody's favorite Simpsons Halloween special story?" Mine? Maybe the monkey's paw one. That's a good one. There were a lot of good ones. I kind of like the one where Homer gets Mrs. Burns' head sewn to him, and they have the beast with two heads because they have that little funny tag at the end where it's going to be a running thing where next week Mr. Burns' head is still there. But there were a lot of good ones. Uh, Gary Carpenter. Kevin Scott, Emily, what did he do? Lance Javen says, did Lisa leave us? No, I thought she was just here a second ago, but we'll have to keep an eye out. Kevin Scott, 76 says, I get scared pretty easily. Fright Night is probably the scariest I can handle. I loved Fright Night. I saw it on a midnight movie years ago. And it's to this day, it's one of my favorite horror comedies. And I even have a copy of the soundtrack on vinyl. Let's see. Oop, I just jumped again. Hold on. Fred Smithwick says, OMG, Emily Miller, same here. You and I probably agree on the reasons for that. The first 6 or so years are great. After that, terrible. Ooh. Johnny says Clarence Leachman's mother-in-law was Mabel Albertson, who played Samantha's mother-in-law in Bewitched. Oh, I had completely forgotten that. Music Girl 67, Marion Hartley was great on The Halloween That Almost Wasn't. She was in a good episode of The Twilight Zone, too. She certainly was. She certainly was. I don't want to give the game away, but I remember the one you're talking about. And she was also in a great episode of The Twilight Zone. TOS, of course. Lance Chafin says Bermuda Depths has Connie Sellecca in it too. Very good, Lance. Yes, it certainly does. It certainly does. And oh, Lisa Field says I'm here. Excellent. Zuplik says, was the movie good, Lance? I saw it when I was like 13, 14, and I loved it. Lance, I'm assuming, did you like it? It had its moments. It was a made-for-TV movie, and production was inconsistent, but I liked it. Oh, Lance Chafin, I haven't seen it. Super. Oh, my guess is you checked the IMDb, and that's how you found out the cast. Well, thank you. And I haven't seen it in years. It's actually not on YouTube. I was surprised. Gary Carpenter says, I found a colorized version of House on Haunted Hill. Yeah, they did that a lot back in the 80s. Tom says, love Fright Night 2. Everyone seems to love that movie. Zublik says, any opinions on This House Possessed? I thought it was a good movie. I saw it when I was in like middle school and thought it was good. I haven't seen it since. Gary Carpenter says, Dark Night of the Scarecrow. I am so with you. Lisa Field says, love Fright Night. Kevin Scott 76 says it's fun hanging out with you guys. Kevin, it's so great having you. You're one of the you guys all are. The level of interaction you have is great. I mean, if it was just me sitting here talking, I mean, I could get into that. I love the sound of my own voice, but you guys really make this show just by interaction. And I love the fact that when I'm like off about something, you guys are right there to like keep me on the straight and narrow. Because you know what? I try to be right all the time. I'm not always right all the time. In fact, I make some mistakes. I've made several tonight. And you guys have always been there to like help me out and basically get the cart back on its tracks, mixed metaphors aside. And I want to thank you guys for all of it. Lance James says Friday night is a pain in the neck. Ouch. Ms. Girl 67 says, has anyone seen the remake of Fright Night with Colin Farrell? I have not. Ellen Miller says, Kevin, this is the only place I actually behave. Well, don't behave on my account. Gary Gardner says Ernest Scared Stupid is a funny movie. I don't think I've ever seen that one. Zublik says Parker Stevenson was good in it. It's about a nurse who falls in love with a rock star. I'm not sure we're talking about the same movie, but I'll take your word for it. Teb says, what's the one 80s slasher film you saw that you loved but never got the critical / commercial / commercial recognition that it deserved? My Bloody Valentine. I mean, there was some cult status behind it, but it never achieved the cult status a lot of the other slasher films got. Fred Smithwick says, I like the Howling Man episode of The Twilight Zone. Not too many people like that one. John Carradine in it. Yes, he was great in it. I actually like that one. I read the short story it was based on, too. That might be part of the problem. Sometimes you have to actually read the story to like get the full effect. But yeah, I like that one. John Doe says Erie, Indiana was shot down too fast. It deserved to last longer. I could buy that. Music Girl says, thanks, Lance. I haven't seen it yet, but I have it on DVD. We'll probably give it a watch soon. Excellent. Zublik says, we appreciate everything you do, T-Ponce. Thank you. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of you guys. Emily Miller says, John, I watched one episode, missed the next few, then poof, gone. I hate it when that happens. That's what happened to me with Dark Room. I missed like 1 week, and when I came back, it wasn't on anymore. I'm like, was it something I said? Fred Smithberg says, you're so cool, Brewster. I just love that movie. Gary Carpenter says, who has heard of The City of the Dead? City D says, good movies, Plex. Love Parker Stevenson. Lance Chafin says, Girl 67, it has a good song called 99 Problems by Hugo. Give it a listen. I know that song. Emily Miller says, Gary, that's where I live now. Damn place shuts down everything down at 9 p.m. Ugh, it's even worse than here. Dilly Dan says, true, My Bloody Valentine was awesome. Yeah, I love that one. John Doe says, Ernest, and we are all Al Yankovic were awesome in the 80s. They certainly were. From is content. Evil Tunes was so goofy, I had to love it. That's my 80s slasher contribution. I don't remember Evil Tunes. It sounds like something I would have watched, but I don't remember it. Emily Miller says, I like My Bloody Valentine with Jensen Ackles. Lisa Field says, People Under the Stairs is a great horror movie. Creepy. I love the People Under the Stairs. Oh, another one I wanted to give a shout out to. Of course, this one is recognized, but I just wanted to give it a shout out to. Tales from the Hood. I absolutely adore Clarence Williams III's depiction of the impresario slash um, uh, funeral parlor host. He was just amazing in it. Let's just see what else we got here. Fred Smithberg, I just discovered there is a 2016 documentary about Fright Night called You're So Cool, Brewster, the story of Fright. I love it. I love it. Didn't Dave do a post that not too long ago? Probably. Gary Garber says, whose Heart of Dark Places? You mean, who's heard of Dark Places? I thought you were talking about Heart of Darkness. I haven't heard of Dark Places, I'm afraid. I'll have to wrap my brains. I may have, and it's just slipping my mind. Ellen Miller says, even my little hometown of Hickory at least has 24-hour pharmacies. One pharmacy by law can stay open 24 hours a day for emergencies, but they don't have to. Lance Chavin says, Lisa, that movie has Ving Rhames. Zublik says, does anybody remember Lisa and the Devil? I don't. Big Guy 45 says, posting Leslie Gore right now. Oh, I love Leslie Gore. Teb says, favorite Robert Englund non-Freddy Krueger role, V. I loved him as the sort of awkward turncoat in V. He was great. He did a couple of good episodes of Married with Children. One as the devil, which is pretty funny. Lisa Field says, yes, Tales from the Hood is a great twist at the end. It certainly is. Of course, who didn't see it coming? Undertaker. I kept saying funeral parlor host. Undertaker was the word I was looking for. Lisa Field says, Lance, I like Hell Night. It's really scared me. Hell Night's a great one. Dilly Dan says, Dave is like The Simpsons. He's done most everything. Yes, he has. Music Girl says, Hell Night, is that the one with Linda Blair? Yes, it is. I actually met Linda Blair once, and it was so funny. We were talking about her horror films, and I could actually name a film of hers she didn't remember. It's what I do. Gary Carpenter says, Curse of the Swamp Creature. Sounds good, but I can't recall it. Zuplik says, love Linda Blair, music girl. My. Oh. So behave. Tom says, was going to say V. Yeah, he was great in V. John Doe says, there's 3 parts to Evil Tunes. I've got to check out this Evil Tunes. Lisa Field says, though there's a horror movie with my name, I must see it. I know you feel. Lance Chavin says, Dream Warriors by Dawkins from Nightmare 3. Yes, when I was doing my research, by the way, after you're done watching this, it should already be posted. That samurai guy was doing a versus of Friday the 13th Part 6 versus Dream Warriors, Freddy, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. I became firsthand with the Dawkins song, familiarized while I was doing the research for that. But I won't give the game away, but please check his show out at leisure. Okay, okay, says Dark Places with Christopher Lee and Joan Collins. I must have seen that, but I can't place it. Maybe I didn't see it. From his content, I just remember Happy Birthday to Me. That was fun. Yeah, I knew what you meant, fun. I've become a virtuoso of filling in the gaps from misspelled words. Sometimes I get it wrong, but I do try to get them right. I do remember Happy Birthday to Me. Can't remember it all, but I remember the film. Music Girl, Zuper, you made Thrash blush. It's not that difficult. Teb says, which iconic Kurtwood Smith role do you prefer better? Clarence Boddicker, RoboCop, or Red Foreman, that 70s show? Oh, RoboCop. I thought he was outstanding. Outstanding in RoboCop. Lance Chafin says, Lisa, there is one called About a Teen Girl Prank Calling a Serial Killer. Oh! Oh! Not Dial M for Murder. I remember that one. I saw it years ago. It's the girl's having a sleepover, and she and her friend are doing all these crank phone calls, and I know who you are, and I saw what you did. And they just happened, they call this guy up who's a serial killer, and they go, we know who you are, and we saw what you did. And he, like, goes bonkers, and they think he's just really into the pantomime, and in reality, he's a killer trying to tie up loose ends. But yes, I remember that one as well. Emily Miller says the only movie I know of with my name has to be do with the exorcism. Rude, they never ask the person if they want to be exercised. That's just it kind of goes on saying. Daryl Johnson says Lisa Field's obituary, 1968 to 2022. Patchagoo, New York. How did she die? COVID? Well, anyway, very sorry for her loss. Emily Miller says Happy Death Day was a hoot. Skipping down. John Doe, Highway to Hell. Got to give it a thumbs up. Zublik says a good Italian giallo film. As I've always said, there's always room for giallo. Kevin Scott Smith, 76, says, oh, I could do a Halloween mashup just for you guys. Let me know any suggestions or request. I definitely will. And if I forget them, please forgive me. Oh, John Doe says, remember for Thrash. Gary Garber says, King of the Zombies. Music Girl 67 says, Lisa with Cheryl Ladd and Stacy Keenan. Lisa Field says, Zerplex. Nope, I'm from New Rochelle, New York. Tab says, thoughts on the recent passing of the character actor Leslie Jordan. Bummed me out. He was such a sweet guy. It really broke my heart. And I always wish he had achieved like bigger status because he was great. Emily Miller says, Kevin, you have a channel. Yes, Emily. In fact, I believe Danny just gave a link to that channel. So please subscribe. Fred Smithberg says, "Who likes the Last Dragon movie?" LOL. Shogun of Harlem. Oh, you mean Show Enough? Bow. Bow. Oh, that guy was great. I can't think of his name to save my life. I know it. I'll know it if I hear it. But he was in Briscoe County Jr. too. But yeah, he was great. He was also in one of those U.S. propaganda military films, Navy SEALs or something. But anyway, yeah, he was great. He was great. But yeah, Show Enough. Uh, Cindy D says, "Love the Last Dragon. Take it one day at a time." Cameron Carpenter says, "Zombies of Moratau." Emily Lewis says, "Scrolling for Kevin BRB." Oh, you don't need to, Emily. Danny just gave it to us again. So yes, it's right there. And Lance Chafin says, "Lisa, the movie with Cheryl Ladd is on Tubi." As Lisa. Daryl Johnson says, "Lisa, type your name on Google and you'll find it." Too funny. Um, ah, Parched. Um, oh, Emily Miller has just subscribed. Um, let's see what we could go in here. It's weird being caught up. I'm so used to like having to scroll to keep up with you guys. Kevin Scott Smith, 76 says, "Sorry, was buried alive because they tied a string to their big toe and then the string went to a ball above the ground." Interesting trap. Gary Carpenter says, "I really did like him. He was a funny little guy." Jordan, yes, of course. Zublik says, "You have reached the end, T-Pawns." I have not reached the end. I've only just begun. And let's see. Uh, Daily Dan has given us another link. I can't tell to what, but he's given us another link. Musical 67 says, "The Amityville Horror was the first movie I saw at the drive-in with my parents. It was a double feature with Humanoids from the Deep." Wow, how old were you, kid? That could have been very disturbing. It was disturbing to me as a young boy. I can only imagine to a young lady how it may have been even disturbinger. Alicia Field says, "My name is really popular. There's 5 in the town I live in now." I'm not Lisa. I guess it's Lisa Fields forever. Keith E says, "Thanks, Danny. I just subscribed to Kevin Scott from your link. I'll check it out." Excellent. Let's see. Les Jeffers says, "Girls love units from the deep, not the ones I knew." Fred Smithberg says, "Anyone own a boom box back in the 80s?" I had like 2 of them, maybe 3 of them. My dad actually bought my first one. But yeah, I had a boom box. Well, of course, I had switched to 8-track tapes, and so you had to have it if you wanted to like have music with you, unless you had a Walkman. But of course, you can't really share a Walkman now, can you? Emily Miller says, "Music girl, I need to stop scanning over replies. I swear, I read hemorrhoids of the deep." Gary Carpenter says, "Have you ever heard of Uncle Was a Vampire?" Not off the top of my head. I saw Superman and Blue Collar with Richard Pryor, Music Girl with my parents and family at the drive-in. Book says, "I hated boomboxes, Fred." Daryl Johnson says, "Didn't the Terminator go through the phone book looking for Sarah Connors?" He certainly did. He certainly did. Music Girl says, "You're so kooky, Emily." But I could see that happening. Lance Chafin says, "I'm kooky." Cookies and milk. And Fred Mills has said, Fred Smithberg says to Daryl Johnson, yes, the Terminator was just being systematic. Yeah, going through looking for all the different Salakanas. Danny Staten has given us another link. Dave Sundstrom, our glorious leader. Yes, our glorious leader. Kevin Scott 76 says my videos are actually on my other channel called Alternate Show Beginnings. Thanks for the interest. Remember here, Alternate Show Beginnings. Everybody look up Alternate Show Beginnings. Asba. It's Asbury Park. Like says, boomboxes made riding in the subways a nightmare. Well, it depends if you like their music or not. Fred Smithberg says, remember Cookie Crisp cereal? Do they still make that? Yes, but I believe it's under a slightly different ad campaign. Tom says, I had a Sears knockoff Walkman. I think everybody did. John Doe says, I Bury the Living. Oh, yes, with Richard Boone. Yeah, I have a copy of that on a DVD somewhere. Leather Chafin says, I miss my Walkman. Emily Miller says, Kevin, I'll sub from your page later. Excellent. Ms. Girl says, sounds like our first experience at the drive-in. We're at about the same time, Cindy. I don't remember the Richard Pryor film, sadly. Blue Collar? I remember it. I don't think I saw it, but I remember it. In fact, that wasn't one of his stand-up films, was it? Where it's just his stand-up comedy? But well, anyway, I was a fan of Richard Pryor, but a lot of his stuff I was too young for. If you follow me, I had to watch it later, so I missed a few things. I'm afraid. Emily Mills says, "Never bury the living, some escape, or so I've heard." Kevin Scott 76 says, "I saw Young Frankenstein in the drive-in theater when it first came out. Love that. That's my favorite comedy of all time." Gary Carpenter says, "What about Phantom from 10,000 Leagues? Why is that bell ringing my head? It must be my tinnitus." Phantom from 10,000 Leagues. That sounds. I'm sure I've seen it. Fred Smithberg said, "Who had handheld electronic games? I loved Cosmic Combat, Space Invaders type game. Sounds like yeah. I had a few of them myself, actually. That's Javen said, I had an Atari 2600. I never did, but my best friend did, and I was always at his house, so we played that until it literally froze up. Lance Javen says, me too, I brought it everywhere. So she's either talking about a handheld video game or a Walkman. I'm guessing Walkman. Let's see what else we got going on here. Fred Smithberg. Sedative! Give him a sedative! And you won't be angry? I will not be angry. Abby. Someone? Abby Normal. And enough of that. Skipping down. I don't know. This is. I had some kind of football game. Cindy D says, yes, late 70s, early 80s, I think, Music Girl. No, it wasn't stand up. I'm surprised my parents took us to see it. A lot of cussing, LOL Thrash. He did have a movie that was a stand up, much like Eddie Murphy did later, didn't he? Or am I just remembering an HBO special and remembering it as a movie? But I know I've heard of Blue Collar. I just can't place it. Music Girl says, did anybody ever have the opportunity to see the original Halloween at the drive-in? Bet it was a blast. No, it was on TV. I saw the commercials on TV when I was like 12, and the commercial scared the BG out of me. In fact, this is a true story. At the time, Halloween was kind of big in my house, and I'd had it since I was a kid. It was one of those plug-in jack-o'-lanterns. It was an orange plastic jack-o'-lantern with a light bulb inside it. When you plugged it in, the light bulb went on, and it made this nice orange glow. Well, I had gone upstairs. It was this cold, windy night, and there was an outside branch that like brushed against a window or something. Now, my mother always told me not to because it left a mark, but I had put my hand on my window pane, and of course, it left a mark. and I had this orange jack-o'-lantern on. So when I heard something at my window and I look over, there's this orange hand pressed against my window. And I went downstairs, never touching a step. I flew downstairs, and my mother was not amused because she didn't want me watching scary movies, and I would watch them without her permission and then get scared, and she'd have to deal with, well, me. So So, no, she didn't let me see Halloween when it was in the theaters. We'll just see, catching up here. Emily Miller says, I saw April Fool's Day and Supergirl at the drive-in. Interesting combination. Date was mad I wanted to watch the movies. I took a date to see a Hitchcock film. She wanted to see something fun, and I'm like, no, we got to see Rear Window. She's like, okay. And I was surprised it didn't work out. But what, give up the chance of watching Hitchcock on the big screen? Liz Javen says in the early '80s, my CBS station had a series called Friday Night Creepy. Friday Fright Night Creepy. Sounds like a blast. Lisa Field says I had ColecoVision. Music Girl 67 says, cool Zuper. I don't live too far from the place where Jamie Lee Curtis sat outside with the pumpkin for Tommy to carve while waiting for Annie to pick her up. She used to actually come to Cape Cod. Um, her brother Nick Curtis used to live on Cape Cod, and I guess Tony had a house here on Cape Cod for a while. So years ago, some people actually knew Jamie Lee Curtis from Cape Cod. Keithy says, my parents took me to Bonnie and Clyde. My father said they would put a bag over my head during the rough parts. Kevin Scott Smith says, Jacob's Ladder is the scariest movie I've ever seen. Can see that. I can certainly see that. Music Girl, great story about Halloween Thrash with the benefit of hindsight. Fred Smithberg said, I would much prefer Krull. Oh, rest in peace, death, by the way. That doesn't sound right, but I can think of nothing more appropriate. Your Gabriel says, LC, yeah, I like her. John Doe says, entertainment went downhill fast after 2005. It certainly did. That's when they closed Suncoast, by the way. Emily Miller says, I haven't seen Jacob's Ladder yet. It's a very good movie. Lisa Field says, I didn't know Jamie has a brother. Had. Nick passed on a few years ago. I'll spare the details. But he passed on a few years ago. They were half siblings. Tony Curtis had a relationship with this woman who I believe lived on Cape Cod. And that's why when he had his summer place here. I'm not sure of all the details, but Nick would have been a year, maybe 2 years behind me. I knew him vaguely when I was in school, and it was cool that he was Tony Curtis's son, but sadly, yeah, he's no longer with us. I'm afraid. Gary Carpenter says 67. I actually don't like all that blood and gore and people getting killed by knife or claws. Valid. Emily Miller says, Gary, I like demons, ghosts, and the like more than gore. Music Girl says, my dad also didn't like horror very much, Gary, so I completely understand, buddy. Zublik says, Tony Curtis got around. He certainly did. Lance Chafin says, Gary, did you check out The Legend of Billie Jean? I was just talking with somebody about that movie. Christian Slater, yes. I was just talking about that movie. I haven't seen the movie in years. I have to watch that movie again. It's more appropriate now than it was years ago. John Doe says, Wishmaster is the perfect combination of gore and scare. I'll buy that. Fred Smithberg says, I went to see To the Devil a Daughter in 76 at the drive-in with Christopher Lee and Natasha Kinski. My aunt told me to turn your head when there was a sex scene. I can certainly understand that. Emily Miller says, love that movie, Lance. Gary Carpenter says, no. Elsie, no, I haven't. Lance Javen says, Highway to Hell with Buffy herself. Lisa Field says, Lance, love that movie. Lance Javen says, Gary, it's good. Gary Carpenter says, I think sex and horror should mix. Weird. From weird. It's what it certainly isn't known to. From is content. Our drive-in was a double feature, and more than once I'd sneak a peek at the better movie playing behind us. Oh, you mean double screens? Yeah, when I was living in the Berkshires, that they had something like that where, it was a huge field, and one screen was this way, and one screen was that way. Yeah, I remember those. What I remember is at the very end of drive-ins when they stopped doing those, the speakers that people would always forget and drive off with and then have to reattach. They would just broadcast the sound over the AM dial. And speaking of boom boxes, my buddy and I, the drive-in was down the street from where he lived, my best friend with the Atari. We'd take my boombox, we'd walk down to the drive-in, and there were spots in the very back where the fences were broken. And we would just sit there, not going inside because I was trespassing, but we'd sit outside and be able to see the screen and play with the boombox and watch the movie. That's how I saw Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Emily Miller says sex can be horrific with the wrong person. Cindy D says great song by Pat Benatar, Invincible, amazing song. Zublik says, wasn't that with Glynis O'Connor? She was in The Boy in the Plastic Bubble with John Travolta, quite possibly. Gary Kemper says, I mean, sex and horror shouldn't mix. Holy cow, look who's in the house. Retro Nerd Girl says, congrats on 200 subs. Retro, thank you so much for joining us. She works Thursdays, too. So the fact that she made it, she must have rushed home after work just to say thank you to me. And thank you for being here, Retro Nerd Girl. If you haven't subscribed to Retro Nerd Girl, you know where this is going, guys. You got to subscribe. She does some absolutely amazing retrospects on sci-fi horror films, and they're very thorough and quite entertaining. And so, anyway, thank you, Retro Nerd Girl, for joining us. Oh, by the way, Mr. Sunstrom, who was here earlier, was saying that you folks are contemplating a collaboration. Let me be the first to say I would so look forward to that. You two are my YouTube mentors, and getting to see a collaboration between the two of you, it would be amazing for me, and I'm sure amazing for everyone else. But thank you. Welcome to the party. A lot of people saying hey to Retro Nerd Girl. Well deserved. Lisa Field says song. Yes, I knew what you meant. Music Girl says, I personally think when it comes to scary horror films, the 70s were probably the best decade. I think you're right. From his content says there was a radio drive-in where we moved to in Arkansas that was playing X-rated movies. So people were eavesdropping there too. Wow. I didn't know you could do those movies on a drive-in for reasons that are all too obvious. But different state laws, I guess. Retro Nerd Girl says, I did rush home for this. I can't tell you how flattered I am that you would do so just for me. Thank you. And again, Retro Nerd Girl has also been indispensable in me getting to 200. When I asked her for help like 6 months ago or so, she did an open question and answer to her subscribers, and I said, "I'm just trying to grow my channel. What can I do differently?" And she actually took the time to answer me in depth, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank you. I will always be grateful to you. Les Chafin says Near Dark, great horror action film, I guess. Daryl Johnson says my friend drove off with one of those speakers still hanging from the window and busted his window right out. It was funny. I can imagine it would be. Zublik says Linda Blair makes my head spin. Retro Nerd Girl says, thanks so much for the kind words, T-Pons. You deserve every single one of them. Lance Chafin says Toxic Avenger. Love it. Lisa Field says, I have to go, guys. Good night. This was fun. Congratulations again, Thrash. Thank you. And thank you for all your help getting to this point. A lot of people saying good night to Lisa, and I don't blame them all. She's one of our favorites. Glitter Boom Boom Girls podcast is here. Oh my God, the Glitter Boom Girls podcast. Thank you so much. It's been a while, guys. What are you guys up to? I don't know. You guys remember the Glitter Booms? They were guests first on Retro Serial, and then Retro, and and they had a couple of collaborations. They're doing some great stuff on their channel as well, and I am so flattered that you guys could make it. Thank you, and yes, I'm very proud to make it to 200 subscribers. Thank you, Glitter Boom Girls. Um, just to drive by. Hello. Well, thank you. That was very, very kind of you. And get some new content out real soon. By the way, love the stuff that you guys have been putting out. And Linola says, "Hey, Glitter Boom Girls." Yeah. Tom says, "X-rated drive-in legal in 2 states." I did not know that. I did not know that. Let's just see what else we got going on here. I'm actually caught up, but a lot of people saying hello and goodbye and bye and hello. Oh, Lance Chafin, I'm out too, guys. Have a great weekend ahead. Lance, thank you so much for joining. This channel wouldn't be the same without you. Thank you so much for coming by tonight, and it was great having you on. A lot of people saying goodnight as well. Oh, I think Gary was actually saying goodbye to somebody else because all the people were saying goodbye to Gary. I think Gary's no, not just yet, not just yet. Good, good. Although we've been going for over 2 hours. That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, you know what? In the spirit of the 200 subscribers, I'm going to keep it going for a little bit longer. Holy cow! Alternate Show Beginnings is in the house. Hey, Alternate Show. I'm going to call you Az for short. I like to abbreviate names; it just rolls off the tongue better. But the Orville third season had a really scary episode. I've been getting some great suggestions, by the way, for you as too, by the way. Guys, check out the Alternate Show Beginnings. Okay, I'm going to stop the pretense. It's Kevin Scott Smith, 76. Why do I keep calling you Kevin? It's Kevin Scott 76, but I'm trying to keep up with the pretense. Yes, check out Alternate Show Beginnings or Kevin Scott's 76, and he's just doing some great stuff. But anyway, thank you for joining us with your other channel. It'll make subscribing to you so much easier. People who forget, and I'm sorry if I keep thinking Kevin Scott Smith because I keep confusing your handle with The Office, but we'll get there eventually. I'm getting a little punchy. Lance Javen says everyone gets a thumbs up tonight. Thank you. Asp says thanks for the interest and support. You're awesome. Well, thank you. It was kind of all over the place, but what I lack in accuracy, I make up for in enthusiasm. Gary Carpenter says Elsa, yes, he does, but he gets thumbs ups. I'm not sure who you're talking to, but yes, I can't agree more. We all get a thumbs up tonight. Music Girl says, so does anyone have any must watches for the weekend or Halloween night that they try to watch each year, including yours, Thrash, please? Okay, I'm going to give you my top 5 horror movies in no particular order. We got your Night of the Living Dead. We got your Dark Night of the Scarecrow. We got your White Zombie. We got your Trilogy of Terror. And then I like to do something with Vincent Price. My personal go-to is Mask of the Red Death. Death. Give me Librium or give me Death. Mask of the Red Death. I think I'm getting parched again. There are other great ones. A lot of people pick Comedy of Terrors. You can't go wrong with Vincent Price. especially ones he did with Boris Karloff. Even though Boris Karloff isn't in Mask of the Red Death, that one's just my favorite. But just find a good Vincent Price movie. His movies are always fun on Halloween night. And while we're at it, you know what? Alternate title: Fright Night, the original Fright Night. Check that one out. John Doe says, "Got to go, but Thrash, congratulations. Keep going. I certainly will." Gary Carpenter says, "I might binge watching videos. Please do." Zublik says, "Only a Charlie Brown Christmas music girl on Halloween." Leave it to you to watch a Charlie Brown Christmas on Halloween. Emily Miller says, "Music girl, I just scroll through the movies listings and watch whatever catches my eye." That's not a bad idea. Emily Miller says, "Hate great night, John." I'm guessing it's have a great night, John. Yeah, Emily, have. Damn it. Tom McGrick says, "The Ghost of Mr. Chicken." Love that movie. Keith E says, "There was an X-rated drive-in movie called a theater called The Rustic outside of Smithfield, Rhode Island in 75, 76. I'll buy that. Leave it to Rhode Island to do something like that. From his content says, "Has the Paul Lynde Halloween special been mentioned?" Totally bonkers. Not tonight, but we've talked about that on several occasions. In fact, if you watch Dave Sundstrom's Retropalooza, I talk about it extensively. Just amazing cast. That was my first experience watching and listening to Kiss. Um, it's actually here on YouTube if you're feeling nostalgic, but I absolutely love the Paul Lynde 76 Halloween special. Gary Carpenter says, "HJ, I love that movie, Attaboy Luther. Not familiar with it." Music Girl 67 says, "Great picks, Thrash. I guess Charlie Brown Christmas is pretty scary if you watch it on Halloween Super." Um, John Doe says, "I'll try to stick it out till the end, but if I disappear, I'm unconscious." It's we've been doing this for over 2 hours. It may not be a bad idea to try to wrap it up. Actually, I'm down into the teens, so people are dropping like flies. So we'll keep it going for a couple minutes more, but I think we should probably wrap it up. So any last minute questions, please feel free to pop them in now. And again, I just want to say, while I have most of you still around, I can't tell you how grateful I am to all the support I've gotten from you guys these many months. I couldn't have gotten to 200 without you. In the immortal words of Winston Churchill, "This is your victory." Mm. Actually, I need a cigar. "This is your victory." Anyway. So where was I? Zublik says, "The Legend of Hell House" is a good choice. Yes, it certainly is. Oh, Attaboy Luther is with the Ghost of Mr. There you go. Okay. Thank you. Attaboy. Yeah. Attaboy Luther. Kisser Luther. Kisser. Spooky, creepy Jay is in the house. Oh my gosh. I am so glad you made it, lad. For those of you who love horror TV shows, love horror anthologies, you have to check out Spooky Creepy Jay. He does, I guess you'd call them, I don't want to say cliff notes that minimize it. He takes these old horror shows, mostly from the 80s and 90s, but he does these watch throughs and he sort of encapsulates them. So you'll take like a half hour to an hour show and put it through in like 6 to 8 minutes and give you all the highlights, and manages to keep all the scariness just out of the exposition. And he has an amazingly riveting voice. The way he describes what's going on, ghouls, and he does it with a certain amount of humor. You got to check out Spooky Creepy Jay, right here on YouTube. Um, Great stuff. And SCJ, thank you so much for joining me. It was a lot of work getting to 200. I'm hoping to get well to a couple thousand very, very soon. But I want to thank you for your support and thank you for joining us tonight. Oh, Gary Carpenter said Comedy of Terror. Yeah, Comedy of Terror is a great one, particularly because it has Boris Karloff. I always loved The Mask of the Red Death. I don't know, for some reason it scared the BGs out of me when I saw it was like 8 or 9 on TV, and for some reason that one scared me. The Raven is another good one. A lot of people saying hello just spooky creepy Jay. I can't talk. I've been doing this for over 2 hours. I'm getting a little punchy. Steve, the live and sad ending says 200. Woohoo! Thank you, Steve. And you know where this is going. If you haven't subscribed to Steve and the live and sad ending, do so. And I'm sure you already have, but if you haven't, now's the time to do so. He puts out some amazing content. From his content, congrats, Thrash. I'm glad to have found you, and thanks to Dave S as well. I'm glad that you found us. By the way, please, not only like but please subscribe. Um, I want to try to get to over 1,000 as soon as humanly possible, and folks like you is the reason I'm doing this for. Spooky Creepy J says, I'm touched. Thank you. No, thank you. You put out some great content. You actually set the bar that I'm trying to stick to. I just wish that when I finally get my laptop, which I just don't have yet, I'm doing most of this on my PC or my phone. I can't do where you trim together the footage from the original shows with the voiceover. At least I can't do that easily here. When I can, I'd like to start doing it to make videos with the quality that you have, but thank you. Thank you very much. Retro Nerd Girl, I just subbed to Spooky Creepy J. You know, it's actually funny. One thing I'm very, very good at, I'm great at putting great people together. You know, like the other day, Retro Nerd Girl, I was on one of your posts, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was one of mine, and oh yeah, that was one of mine, and oh yeah, that was one of mine. So I'm glad I could forward people to other people of quality on this channel. And Kevin Scott 76 is back. What happened to alternate show title? Sorry, I couldn't resist. What, you can't do two posts at the same time? uh, but anyway, what costume is everybody wearing for Halloween? I'm either going as Silent Bob from the Jay and Silent Bob. I can actually do that really well. I turn my hat back around and don't say much. I have a duster and I wear it with a hockey shirt. Or I bring out my Halloween costume because that just confuses people. I have a great what did I say Halloween costume? Christmas. I have a Santa Claus costume. And it's a great Santa Claus costume. It's just very confusing to wear it on Halloween, particularly for the kids. But I'm doing one of those too. Oh, alternate show beginnings getting cocky says yes I can. He's actually doing both. He's actually here as alternate show beginnings as well. Oh, okay. Oh, gloves are off, huh? You know, I should have done that. I should have actually used my other channel and posted comments into the comment section while talking to you folks. But I have trouble keeping up with things as it is. So, one time you guys actually had 1,500 comments in the live chat. 1,500. That's crazy. People wanted to say 1,500 things to little old me. Crazy. Spooky Creepy J says, I'm excited to see that you do Thresh. You've got a very friendly personality. Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you appreciate that what I do, and I'm glad you decided to join us tonight. And please check out some of my earlier posts. I'm always handing to people. Please check out my earlier posts. You know, it was actually kind of sad. Tonight I did a live chat for my 200 subscriber. Do you guys remember what I did for my 100 subscriber? A lot of you, half of you weren't around then. I did 100 subscriber extravaganza. I did 100 micro reviews. I did 10 posts of 10 reviews, rapid fire, like 2 or 3 sentences on each film. And it was 100 micro reviews for 100 subscribers, and no one watched it. I thought it was such an innovation, and apparently nobody else did. But anyway, please check out my earlier post. Please. The Life Inside Ending says, or I'm just gonna call you Steve. I bought a Stetson cowboy hat, but it's not for a Halloween costume. Oh, okay. I got a dad joke for you guys. Ready for the dad joke? There's a dad joke. A greyhound walks into a bar. Asks the bartender what he should have. The bartender says, have you ever had a greyhound? And the dog says, yes, I have. But our parents refused to let us marry. Okay, I have one a little more Halloween appropriate. Crazy old cat lady lives on my block, and the other day she finds this feral cat, and she washes the cat, and she feeds it, she nurses it back to health, but she puts this collar with this big, oversized, ludicrous bell, which is always going ding, 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 ding whenever the cat walks around, to scare the birds, of course. But the cat hates it. The cat claws at it, pulls it off, and the lady puts it back on. And the cat claws at the collar and gets it off again. The lady puts it back on. And the poor cat's actually starting to scratch its neck, getting this collar off. And again, the lady's putting it back on. And finally, one day, the cat looks at the lady and says, "Lady, why do you keep putting that darn collar on me?" And the lady goes, "I put a bell on you because you're mine." Anything? Anything? I don't have to impress you people. Good thing, too. Um, Having pontificated, I've gotten way behind in the comments again. As said, phone and computer, everyone could actually be giving you 2 legs each. That's a very good point. Everybody give me 2 legs each. Gary Carpenter said Theater of Blood. I love that movie. I love that movie. Mrs. Peel. Emma Peel is in that great movie. Diana Rigg. Ziplik says, I think we're reached 2,000. I don't think so. Emily says, I don't have a computer alternative. No worries. Thanks anyway. Ziplik says, you are the sunshine of this chat, Emily. She certainly is. As says, let's go for 500 subscribers. I love how you think. Um, Tom says, I haven't dressed up in 20 years. When I do, people get mad. Spooky Creepy J says, Gary Carpenter, not sure I can post a link, but you should have no problem if you type Spooky Creepy J. That's what I do. Just do Spooky Creepy J and you'll get it in the search bar on YouTube. Dan, if you're here, if you could do a link to Spooky Creepy J, we'd really appreciate it. But if not, just do Spooky Creepy J. I've never had trouble finding him. Emily says, cowboy hats are sexy. Hi, I'm Bucky Goldstein. Let's just see. Asb says Bono and the Edge walk into a bar. The bartender says, not you two again. um, Emily says, just call me out, T-Bones. Steve says, Thresh, if you ever get set up to have guests, I could do a Bob Hope walk on, then leave like I'm too busy to be there. That would be priceless. When I get my laptop, I'll be able to do have guests come on. Right now, I'm using my archaic, antiquated, laughable personal computer, but when I get the laptop, which is be the next couple of months, definitely. A lot of people saying LOL. I'm hoping you laughed at at least one of my jokes. Steve says, "How did the beatnik airline pilot fly sitting back with his feet up?" Automan. Automan. Love it. Gary Carpenter says, HJ Entertainer of the Decade. Teb says, I'm about to go to sleep. Hope you have a good night. Yes, you too. I think I am asleep, actually. Cindy D says, the Bob Hope specials were priceless. Well, folks, we're getting on 10:30 my time. Yes, that's right. I'm on the East Coast, and it's getting fairly late. I want to thank every single one of you. I'm glad that we postponed for a while because a lot of you great people showed up at the end. Like seriously, some of my like biggest YouTube heroes, and I'm not using that term lightly. You guys are my heroes. A lot of you people are the ones who inspired me to actually create this channel in the first place. And even the people I met afterwards, you inspired me to make my channel better. And I can't thank you guys enough for that. And I'm being sincere. But I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me tonight. And again, when I'm up around 200,000, when I have more subs than Dave does, we'll remember that you guys were all here literally at the beginning. Literally. I mean, yes, all right, I've been doing this for 2 years now, but it's still a fledgling channel, but it's about to take off. And it's about to take off because of you guys and the help and support you've given me. And I can't thank you enough. So, on that note, I want to thank you all for joining. Be good, be safe, be careful. Take care of yourselves. One or the other, I will see you guys on Halloween night. And as always, I'm looking forward to seeing you all again very, 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 very soon. Peace.